Form something into loops or loops. She looped her arms around my neck. What the fuck? Looping. What is it? Welcome, people of the fog, to the second edition of the 7-Minute Guide series. If you want a follow-up guide going into specific structures, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Now, we don't have time for long intros, so let's go. Looping is a term coined by the Dead by Daylight community. It is when the killer chases the survivor and a survivor tries to stall and elude the killer for as long as possible so their teammates have enough time to work on the objective. Because killers are faster than survivors, this forces survivors to run around structures, ideally one with pallets or windows. Let's talk about your opponent, the killer. The killer has something called the red stain. This is a red light that'll show at the killer's feet extending about 1 meter in whichever way they are looking, unless they have the undetectable status effect. This light is very useful because it can tell a survivor that the killer is about to round a corner before they can see them. This is why the second most important thing I can tell you about looping is to look behind you. Looking behind you in chases gives you so much information. It tells you the killer's body language, how close they are, and the direction they are moving. You should only occasionally look forward so you don't run into anything. Otherwise, keep your eyes on the killer and don't panic. Last thing we need to cover quickly is vaulting. There are 3 different kinds of vaults: slow, medium, and fast. Slow vaults can be performed by not holding down the sprint button while vaulting a window or a pallet. This will make the survivor quietly, but slowly, move over the vault. Medium vaults can only be performed at windows. This happens when you perform the vault action while holding the sprint button, but you fail to sprint at the window from a straight-on angle. Fast vaults can be performed by running at a window straight on and vaulting, or on pallets by holding the run button. One thing to note is that fast vaults create noise notifications giving the killer info on your location, so try to avoid this action outside of chases. Now that the basics are covered, let's move on to the fun stuff. Keep in mind every killer plays differently, so in order to counter their power you must understand them first. This comes with time and more 7-minute guides. At all times in a match, you should be looking around for potential escape routes and which pallets and windows spawned on your map seed. This will allow you to learn the environment and help you chain together pallet after pallet and window after window. A great perk for helping in this endeavor is Kate Denson's Windows of Opportunity, which allows you to see the auras of all nearby windows and pallets. The next thing you need to master to be a successful looper is the ability to cut your turns as tight as you can and hug the inner portion of the structure you're looping as best as possible. This will allow you to travel as efficiently as possible and will help you ultimately stall for more time. Keep in mind the killer's collision box is wider than survivors, so it will help mitigate their speed if you cut corners and take loops tighter than they do. Be careful though, because some obstacles might be sticking out. You may get stuck if you hug the wall too closely. Next, let's talk about greeting pallets. Greeting is when a survivor, in an effort to not waste a pallet and buy more time, will refuse to drop a pallet when they normally should. If you notice a killer is pausing before walking through a pallet, this usually indicates that the killer is worried about being stunned. Knowing this, you can decide not to drop a pallet and use the extra time gained from their hesitation to wrap around the loop an extra time. Generally, early game is the best time to greet pallets because you don't want to waste resources. Also, keep in mind killers adapt to gameplay, so it won't always work. Be sure to continuously change your body language and make decisive choices in the heat of the moment. Next, let's talk about windows. Obviously, as a survivor, you always want to, when possible, hit the window with a fast vault. Try to always line up for a fast vault, even if this means you're not hugging the wall, like this. Sometimes the killer may be too close for you to safely fast vault. This means in this situation it's probably best to fake vaulting. The best way to fake a vault is to sprint straight out a window and at the last possible second pull away.
Gotcha, bitch!
This technique isn't the easiest to pull off, but it may save your life if done right. Lastly, and maybe the most important tip, is to always reflect on each chase afterwards and think about how you could have played that situation better. Sometimes there was no good option and you might have been doomed from the start. In some situations, you might not have had a chance, but in most cases, there's always a way to improve your looping techniques. If you do that, you'll become a better survivor because you'll always be learning and adapting to the ever-changing meta and gameplay. Lastly, I wanted to break down how looping mechanics work. So here we have a nice, lovely setup with our survivor Kate and our killer here, Trapper. And if you recognize what this loop is, this is actually Killer Shack. So you got 2 lockers here, window and pallet. You got an empty doorway. So anyways, let's say we approach the shack from this side, right? We have a few different options, right? Killer's behind us. Option A, we can go into a locker and probably get caught and die, right? Sick. That option is not a good option. So we enter shack. What are our other options? Well, we have a window here, which we can fast vault because it's very easy to hit that fast vault, which is why Killer Shack is so effective. And if we do that, it'll put the trapper at this doorway, and he has a choice whether to wrap around this way outside the shack or whether to follow inside. That all depends on how close we are. So that's a pretty good option. It keeps us safe for a little bit longer and uses up one of the vaults on this window. Whatever, you have a maximum of 3 vaults before the entity blocker blocks the window. What are our other options? Other option is to go upwards. So we enter the shack and go towards the pallet. This will either make it so we have to wrap around this way and not have an easy angle to hit the fast vault. And by the time that happens, Trapper's over here, and then he can mind game, and then it's a 50-50 whether we get hit. So entering shack, our best option is to hit that fast vault, right? Now, this will always change depending on which killers you're up against, and it will also change depending on which structure you're at. On the fly, you have to adjust depending on what the game is throwing at you. If you're up against a pyramid head, maybe your best option is not to hit the window, and your best option is to go for the pallet, because at least you'll slow him down and he'll get huge distance before you have to move on. So that's just a little crude sketch. That's why in this video I didn't go over any specific structures, because there's no one way to loop it. You just gotta read the situation and go from there.
The box. You opened it. I